What's up peeps, Ruxkull here, and here we are again with an update video a year later talking about that big question a lot of people ask themselves. Is Ark Survival Ascended worth it? And how does the game compare to Ark Survival Evolved now? I did actually want to release this a month ago, but with that Unreal Engine 5.5 update getting delay after delay, it caused this video to get delayed. How ironic. Anyway, we will be talking about graphics, gameplay, technical, mods, past and future content updates, and DLC pricing to help you decide whether this game is worth your money and time. I'll give a bit of my own thoughts for each section, and my overall thoughts at the end of the video. Just like last time, I'm going to start with the graphics since that still seems to be the main selling point of this game when comparing it to Ark Survival Evolved. The graphics, as long as you can run it on medium/high settings, still look amazing to me, with every new map they released since my last video being a big visual upgrade in a lot of ways in my opinion. There are a few things that bug me graphically though I wanted to mention here. First is this common sandstone theme that is present everywhere on maps like the island and the center. It looks good in certain areas, but it gets old quick because they literally put it everywhere. There's also the clouds on most maps that look really grainy for some reason, and to me don't even look like clouds at all at some points. And there is also grass that is just so freaking tall you can't see through it. Thank gosh Ragnarok fixed these two things. Oh yeah, and can't forget about those flickering light bugs and floating rocks everywhere too still either. This is more of a technical thing though, so I won't go too hard on them for it here. For gameplay, at base things are still pretty dang similar to this day between both games. The only major things that differentiate the two for me, like I mentioned in my last video, is the new map and building system. The map in ASE was pretty useless with it not showing your location unless you had a setting on, and even if you did, it wasn't accurate at all. Now in ASA, the map is a lot more detailed, and it gives you the ability to put down waypoints with a much more accurate visual of your location. The building system is much better too, with things snapping onto each other a lot smoother, and it gives you a lot more freedom with all the options when placing structures. Other than that, it's just small quality of life things like faster ammo switching, shoulder pad inventory ease of access, and improved loot tables for supply drops. ASE and ASA are exactly the same to me at base besides these things, and in my opinion they definitely could have done a lot more here. For example, as I stated last time, the AI in the game got small improvements, but I still think it needs a lot of work. A lot of the tame creatures have very basic behavior, and most creatures' behavior in the wild is super plain to me still. There are more major things I wanted to see improved on too, like some of the clunkiness of the combat, cave/boss rebalancing, and also actually doing major changes to less like maps like the center or Scorched Earth. It seems like these things won't ever get looked at though, with them seeming to be putting a lot more focus on dishing out new content instead of polishing. Was a similar deal with Ark Survival Evolved. Oh boy, here we go again with the technical. Starting with the performance, I think it's safe to say ASA is still really rough on most mid-range PCs. According to Steam, most people on PC run a 3060 graphics card. All I have to say is good luck, have fun trying to use a 3060 on ASA, even on low to medium settings. You'll have to downgrade your graphics settings so much that the game will end up looking like ASE, and at that point the remaster might not feel worth it for many. When it comes to console performance, it seems to be a big mixed bag too from what I've heard. Some areas get really bad frames, and if you're running ASA on the Xbox Series S especially, you'll likely have a rough time. The thing with how Wildcard seems to do performance fixes is that they are very band-aid-like without fixing the core issue with the game's performance. For example, a couple of months ago they started to force frame generation on for people. This is an AMD graphics setting that pretty much gives you free frames, but it comes at the cost of causing more frequent stutters, input lag, and the frames in general being quite inconsistent. This especially on Nvidia GPUs can feel pretty rough, but even if you force turn it off with commands, you realize just how much the game relies on it. As I mentioned before, there was also an upgrade to the base engine they did very recently from Unreal Engine 5.2 to 5.5. They were teasing this for the longest time, and they were kind of making it out to be the upgrade that would fix a lot of performance issues. Unfortunately, it was a huge mixed bag for a lot of people, because again, as stated, doing these general band-aid type fixes doesn't work for everybody. A game I like to look to for a huge comeback in performance is Cyberpunk 2077. On launch, this was one of the worst performing games of all time. It makes even ASA look decent. In the long comeback, they made individual optimizations to the game itself while listening to community feedback, not forcing these general performance changes hoping it would fix the problem. If ASA wants any chance to work good performance-wise, in my opinion, they'll have to do a similar thing. Moving on from this, there's also of course the good old bugs, which ASA still has quite a bit of. I won't knock at them too hard for this since Ark is such a big game, and it does feel like in the past year they've been addressing bugs a lot better than they have in the past. Definitely still there though. The public servers are as rough as they've always been, with laggy performance, a lot of rollbacks, and cheaters everywhere. Trafalgar made this fantastic video recently where he fought back against some really annoying cheaters, and Wildcard did absolutely nothing to help him in this situation because their customer support services were down for 6 months. It's actually legit still down as of making this video. Crazy stuff. The mods part of the game is one of the few things, in my opinion, that is definitely an upgrade for ASA. They are a lot easier to implement into your world with its own dedicated page, consoles can finally mess with them, and with the addition of premium mods, there have been some insane quality ones out there that you can mess with. I still don't mind the concept of premium mods, but there are aspects to it I find a bit silly, like mod creators taking 50% of the mod revenue, while Wildcard and CurseForge take 50% of it for themselves. I can understand if CurseForge wants a bit of the cut for operation purposes, but Wildcard taking that cut too when they already have a bajillion paid DLCs as well as their own premium mods included in the game, it feels a bit weird. Content updates in ASA are honestly pretty frequent, with the developers doing these community crunches every week to discuss upcoming content like before. It feels like right after I posted my video a while back saying how empty these crunches felt, the devs started putting a lot more effort into these, so good on them. The community managers also talk pretty frequently with the community on the Discord server. One thing I will most definitely complain about though is that dang release schedule. Literally every single major release in the past year has been delayed in some form from their originally announced release date. You can actually pause the video now and read this comprehensive list of delays I made to see how ridiculous this is. This kind of thing is just unacceptable in the gaming space to me, and as someone who has played a bunch of live service online games, it's something I've never seen anywhere else. The main problem with delaying so much is that there are a ton of people who will change their work schedules around these release days, only for it to be delayed at the last minute and their whole day be ruined. Wildcard does it so consistently, I'm starting to think they do it on purpose for some weird marketing ploy, but it clearly doesn't work. Anyway, enough ranting about that, let's talk about what these content updates actually contain. In the past year, they've released remastered versions of the ARK Survival Evolved maps, Aberration, Extinction, The Center, and Ragnarok. As I stated in the gameplay section, unfortunately these remastered maps don't add anything major gameplay-wise, except a few new creatures which kind of stinks. Besides Ragnarok, that remaster seems to be pretty awesome so far and actually feels like a remaster. The only time they release anything major gameplay-wise is with these DLC packs, which unfortunately have features I wish everyone had access to, but I'll leave the ranting for the next section. Talking about future content, we know they plan to release the rest of the ARK Survival Evolved maps, Genesis Part 1 and 2, Valguro, Crystal Isles, and Fjordor. Each will have their own free unique creatures, as well as crappy paid stuff. We know Bob's Tall Tales will be getting a Part 2 with Genesis, and I don't doubt they plan to release those paid Fantastic Tames creatures with every non-canon ASA map. Additionally, we are getting a completely new canon map called Lost Colony, that is unlikely releasing in December. It has a pre-order pack as well they just released that I will talk about in the final section. The final thing I wanted to add here is this ARK Aquatica DLC that will be added to ARK Survival Evolved in the future. Yeah, you heard that right. This DLC will be exclusive to the predecessor game, and is some kind of non-canon map in an underwater world. There has been some real crazy stuff surrounding this DLC, like AI-generated trailers, AC servers about to be brought back when the old ones were destroyed, and the official soundtrack being sung by literal children. I won't delve into this too much here, as Wildcard literally went out of their way to say they had no part in making this DLC, with it being only their publisher that made it, Snail Games. I still wanted to talk about this here, though, as it shows a clear divide between the ARK developers at Wildcard and their publisher Snail Games. This gives us a bit of a behind the scenes look, and can explain a lot of the chaos with ARK we see in the present day. I thought it would be important to end this video with pricing, since this is of course a major hurdle for most people before buying a game. I will be talking about DLC stuff too here, so this will likely give you a good idea of the direction ASA is going. The game at base costs $45 USD, and as of making this video, it includes remastered versions of the maps The Island, Scorched Earth, Aberration, Extinction, The Center, and Ragnarok. All the other base game maps that were included in ASE, Genesis Part 1 and 2, Valguro, Crystal Isles, and Fjordor, will all be given to you for free down the line once they are finished. On top of this, there is also the Bob's Tall Tales expansion that costs $30 USD at base, made around the themes based on the Scorched Earth, Aberration, and Extinction maps. It includes a bunch of new weapons, structures, skins, creatures, and tools with their own unique themes. If you do not own this DLC, you're not allowed to interact with anything related to it, even if a friend in your lobby owns it. Then there's finally the Fantastic Tames. These seem to be planned to release around when a new non-canonical map releases, like The Center or Ragnarok. Although, the Dreadmare was just released around the Halloween event, so I don't know. Anyway, currently there's only the Powermane and Dreadmare, and they both are sold separately at about $5 USD each. Both of them have some pretty crazy abilities, and it'll spawn on your maps no matter what, even if you haven't purchased the DLCs. Unless you use a mod to force them not to spawn, wink wink. They are completely untamable if you didn't purchase the DLC as well. Another fantastic tame I didn't mention is the Drakeling, which can only be bought in the Lost Colony DLC pack. This DLC pack is also $30 USD like Bob's Tall Tales, and it includes the Drakeling Fantastic Tame, Balewind, heroine, a player skill tree, template hammer, tech bunker, a dark tech cosmetic, and finally of course access to Lost Colony when it unlikely releases in December. With all that out now, I wanted to give my own thoughts about all this pricing DLC stuff. And to put it simply, it's mostly negative here. When it comes to the base game, the thing is you can buy the Ultimate Survivor Edition for the game's predecessor ASE at the same price, and you already have access to those DLCs that just aren't in ASA right now. You can choose if you want them or not too, unlike ASA, so that price can become even less on the first buy. It sucks that ASE players have to pay full price for something that is still pretty much ASE too. With this kind of rant, I'll save for later. When it comes to Bob's Tall Tales, it's okay, as the content in it is actually pretty cool. What isn't cool is how intruding Bob's Tall Tales stuff can be if you don't own it, with a bunch of holograms in your inventory taking up space. Even once you do own it, it's still pretty intrusive to the game for me. It just fills your entire crafting inventory with crap, and those cutscenes before you spawn in and after you ascend feels so weird. It goes to some nice cinematic in-game stuff to just kids drawings. Like, why? I don't mind these stories themselves, as the whole interaction between Bob and this kid is quite cute, but it really feels like they don't belong here. I'd rather just find these in an Explorer note somewhere. Then there's the dreaded Fantastic Tames. I feel like if there's anything to describe how scummy modern ARK has become, it's these things. They typically have incredibly busted abilities, and if you don't own them, they still spawn everywhere on certain maps with no ability to tame them. This is an incredibly scummy practice to me, as even as a PvE player, it's just you get these crazy busted creatures to beat the game easier if you pay $5. I can't imagine how pay to win they feel in PvP. Anyway, the final thing I wanted to talk about here is the Lost Colony expansion pass that was released with Ragnarok. This one felt really sad to me, as it locks features behind a paywall that most players should definitely have access to. Imagine if ASA launched with a skill tree or a template building system so you can copy your favorite YouTuber's build or something. These are such awesome features, but locking them behind a $30 paywall makes it all incredibly sour to me. Now that we've gone through everything, how should we answer that big question? Just like last time, it's up for you to decide with everything I stated here, but if you want my opinion, I still wouldn't recommend ASA in its current state to most people. If you just want a pretty looking dino game that constantly gets content updates with cool mods, while having a beefy enough PC/console that can run it, then perhaps you wouldn't mind ASA. Otherwise, it's hard for me to support these clearly scummy practices they do to the player base, locking major gameplay features behind paywalls. There's a good reason why currently its predecessor, ARK Survival Evolved, has more players than the remastered version on Steam. It's simply just more polished. The devs admitted themselves ASA was made because they needed money for ARK 2, but did the player base really need to be milked this much? If the game was free to play, maybe I wouldn't go at them so hard for this, but it's not, and I doubt it will ever be. At base, I still adore ARK with its amazing boss fights, music, and creature taming system. Unfortunately, it constantly feels like Cyberpunk at launch, where the devs have way too high of ambitions, and polish becomes an afterthought when they constantly add all these cool features. Perhaps in another year or two, the game will feel better, but if you buy this game right now, you may end up feeling like a beta tester. That's all just my thoughts on ASA though. You can let me know in the comments what you think of the game, and possibly what it needs to have any chance for a comeback. Thank you for the support as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Rock skull, rock skull. All you wants to do is stream all night. Lobby full, rock skull. Never gonna play with me, but it's alright.